My experience with my life coach far outweighed my experience with my therapist.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And what I found was she really helped me interrogate all of my thoughts and my narratives and my ideas about, well, why do you believe love means this? Like, she asked me what love is.
Oh.
Y'all, my definition of love was sacrifice.
Oh.
Wow. That's it. Y'all, to sit down and talk with sis.
What an epiphany.
I was like, yeah, it meant sacrifice. It meant giving. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how my mother loved us.
Right.
We were everything, you know? And I was like, oh. And she's like, where do you think you got that idea from? And you know, okay, I love my mama now. So don't be trying to tell me my mama ain't doing nothing right.
Like, wait a minute. Welcome back, you guys.
What's going on,
Key and
fam?
Will's The More You Know
We in here.
podcast. We are back in the building with a special guest today, and we are so excited to introduce Miss Caroline Colleen, who is Mama Champion, life coach for mamas. And so excited to talk to you today, Caroline, about all things mama related.
Right? Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, listen, I'm super excited. I told Caroline, which guys, I've been waiting all week for this.
Oh yeah,
because you know she's one of those inspirational individuals that really can lift you up, and she's very transparent. She tells her story, and that's why she can meet you where you are. So I'm totally excited about today.
How you feeling, Caroline? How does it feel to be on Key and Will's podcast?
It feels good. It's such a pleasure to be here. And let me tell you, it's just such an honor. This is just something that flows out of you all as well. I was watching a couple of episodes recently, and as much as you are here to celebrate me, it's just an honor to be here to celebrate you all.
Appreciate that.
You know, one of the things that's really important to me is helping people through transition.
Okay.
And, you know, you all helped me through a huge transition. I got the opportunity to sell my marital home after divorce, and now in my dream home. And one of the things that stands out to me, I'm just going to share a memory I have with y'all. Is Key, when we walked into that house.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was like, do you think I could have this house? Oh my gosh. And we were like, and you were like, let's put in an offer.
I was like, I know you can. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 So I'm
what a journey.
Thrilled to be here.
I remember we had seen, I don't know, probably
100 houses, baby?
No, not really that probably 10.
It didn't take long. I remember it was a relatively short stint.
And that's one of the things, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, is when you know, when you walk into that space, it really isn't anything you have to think about. So
yes,
I'm so happy for you. You talk about transition and the way that you help people, not just mothers transition, but just people in general. I believe you have that type of spirit because I went through a transition myself. So it's so easy for us to connect in that way because we have both experienced, you know, me before you, you know, that type of journey. So certainly easy to connect on that level.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's so difficult when you're going through and then you realize that you had to kind of go through that valley. You had to kind of get in that little dark shadow. Come on. To get to the other side. Because look at where we are now. You know what I'm saying? Literally light.
Yes.
Like his light in our lives.
That's,
honey, in spite of. Girl,
in spite of.
Come on.
Talk to us, Caroline, about this concept of a mama champion. And you have your Instagram page, and you're also on TikTok, and we'll talk about the social media platforms you're on. But I see you, and you know, kind of again the positivity that you exude through the screen, and being a life coach for mamas. Just talk about what that is for a moment.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, I'm really passionate about helping people in transition. And we go through all kind of transitions as women, as mamas. And you don't have to just be a mama of children. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about plant mamas. We're talking about mamas who always thought they would be a mama, never became a mama. We're talking about pet mamas, aunties, cousins. As women, we are here to love and nurture and give no matter, you know what I'm saying? Whether or not we conceive.
Right.
So I always want to make that clear. And I think the other thing I like to share is that transition is transition, even good or bad. Like there had to be a transition even from being married, right? You have this huge celebration and then you got to figure out how to make this thing happen, right? Okay. Or you give birth to a child. And then they become a teenager.
Yeah.
And, honey,
or an adult.
So we need tools.
I still can't believe your babies.
I know.
Man, I cannot believe she's 17 now.
Oh my goodness.
Man, so transition. So I can relate, when you talk about aunties and folks, in the neighborhoods, teachers, your pastors, all of, having that responsibility of caring for others.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Absolutely. Yeah. What is the passion behind Mama Champion in your journey to get to that moment where you said, this is what I'd like to project out in the world?
Yeah. So I like to say that I'm very passionate about burnout just because I feel like so many of us experience it, right? Because those of us who operate like I do, like you and Will do, we kind of have this great capacity to work in high functioning positions, to manage a lot of things within our families, take care of our parents, taking care of children, finances, legal things, all the things. So because we have this great capacity, sometimes we push ourselves or go a little bit too far. And so I found myself completely overwhelmed and burnt out in an unhealthy relationship and just dealing with all the things of life. And, there's only so much prayer. There's only so much girlfriend time.
Right.
There's only so much self-care when it starts to feel like you're not going to come out of it. And so I got to this point where I was like, I don't know what help. Okay?
Right.
Help.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
And so I coined this.
So often we don't say those words out loud, though.
And that's the other thing. I think culturally, being from the South, people of faith, you can say, oh, it's tough, it's rough, but you might not really share.
Say how really tough it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, just getting to that place where I needed help. And at that time in my life, I hired a life coach and I hired a therapist.
Right. You had both.
And, right. Okay. And was always involved in church and know the Lord. And
So what was, because I think that's critical. What was the decision point? Because as you stated, you were maxed out. You were at capacity. Matter of fact, you were overflowing with life's journey. So what was the turning point to say, I'm going to call someone?
That's a good question. There were probably several, but the story that comes to mind for me is, so I have 3 girls. At this time, I had just had my 3rd daughter. My last 2, I had kind of had back to back. They're like 18 months apart. Right. And I went for a checkup, a 6-week checkup for my youngest child. And my blood pressure was like 200 over 100. The doctor checked and was like, you feeling okay?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I was like, I'm fine. She said, why don't you sit here for a minute? We're going to check your blood pressure again. And she didn't tell me what it was. So I said, okay. So she checked it again. It had gone down a little, my top number. I've always had an issue with my bottom number being really high. And then they said, well, we'll check it again before you leave and have your appointment. But at that point, oh my goodness, my marriage was over before my last child was born. So I was just dealing with a lot. And when it took its toll on my body, when I knew that it could take me out, I said, oh no, this is what we're not doing. Okay. We're going to have to figure this out.
Right.
Yeah.
So and you reached out. Yeah.
I commend you for that, Caroline, because so often we're raised that, and especially if you're raised Southern Baptist, Christian,
Yes.
Black mamas that we're raised that we just endure. And you keep your marriage and you push through for the kids and you just hang in there.
Yeah.
You know, just pray. But thank you for being so vulnerable and saying that you have to take care of you. And when it comes to your peace and your health, then you have to make some considerations and make some changes.
Yeah.
So how did that go when you reached out to those professionals?
Yeah. So I had a really good experience with both. But the life coach I hired completely changed my life.
Now, let me pause you there. What made you say, I need a life coach and a therapist? What was that?
That's a good question. For me, at that point, I knew my marriage was over.
Okay.
But I feel like I wanted to be sure.
Sure,
right?
Of course.
So I kind of was like, let me just make sure I'm not missing something. Maybe, you know, for me, it was always, I'm not doing this right. I need to be more this.
Won't we blame ourselves?
Yes. And then when you have someone who's telling you, yeah, if you would just do this, we would be fine. You ain't doing this. You ain't doing that. I need you to. So I was like, okay, maybe I really do. Let me just make sure. So I decided, because we'd always go to therapy together. One thing about my kid's dad, he was always available. We went to therapy multiple times over the course of our marriage. Okay. We really did try. So I kind of was like, let me just.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. And so I think that for me, like I say, when I knew something physically was going on that I didn't even pick up on, and then I kind of was like, let me just be sure. And my experience with my life coach far outweighed my experience with my therapist.
Really?
And what I found was she really helped me interrogate all of my thoughts and my narratives and my ideas about, well, why do you believe love means this? Like she asked me what love is.
Oh.
Y'all, my definition of love was sacrifice.
Oh. Wow.
That's it. Y'all, to sit down and talk with sis.
What an epiphany.
I was like, yeah, it meant sacrifice. It meant giving. Like, that's how my mother loved us.
Right.
We were everything, you know? And I was like, oh. And she's like, where do you think you got that idea from? And you know, okay, I love my mama now. So don't be trying to tell me my mama ain't doing nothing right.
Like, wait a minute.
But I was like, she was just like, well, let's just sit with this. And I realized, oh my goodness, I created some of this with the narrative that I had about what it meant to be a wife and, you know, what it means to be a good wife or a Christian wife or I was like, what?
I think we have this idea of a perfect household, right? Being the perfect mother, trying to reach these, you know, goals of being the perfect mother, having a perfect home, the perfect job, being the perfect wife, cooking, sex whenever, you know, they want sex. And even when we're exhausted or, you know, all the things, right? And you create this narrative from our history and our childhood of what a home is supposed to be. And we'll run ourselves down to the ground, won't we?
Let me tell you.
Trying to live a dream that was never even.
Okay.
Nobody has done that.
Not only that, y'all, how about we hold ourselves to this standard, but then we don't even, at least for me, I didn't set those expectations for anybody else. I was supposed to make sure all the things happened. But my expectations were for you were the minimum because I'm supposed to handle everything and make sure I get it right.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So how that's going to work? After 5 years? After 10 years?
Right.
After
So
15?
it was almost a aha moment where it just sort of went off and like, oh, I see now. I see
yes.
now. Wow. So your life coach really sort of gave you direction and sort of had you rethink your thoughts about that.
How long was the process for you to get a different way to think about what love is or just thinking differently about certain concepts?
You know what? I think it started with the idea and the thought and really having that conversation. And then, you know, between sessions, she would give me assignments and things for me to think through and journal and activate. And what eventually happened is completed her coaching program, and so many things started shifting. You know, how many of y'all know when you start to change, everything starts to change around you?
Wow.
Come on.
Hold that thought real quick.
I
Come
like
on.
that. Yes.
Come on.
Say that again. When you change,
Everything around you starts to change.
I've never thought about that.
It's so true. You just
never
start
thought
to
about
attract different energy because your energy is different. And I mean, I kind of say that as a segue into Key and I were talking before we started about, you know, talking about dating after divorce when we meet today. But let me tell you, the concept, total mind shift for me is that I'm in a season of receiving.
I love that.
What?
Should be.
I think we should always be in the
We
season of
should be,
receiving.
but we're not.
Because, you know, I think
We're not automatic.
it's natural, you know, depending on how you were raised. But, you know, you're raised to give and make sure that that person is okay. Make sure they don't need anything. But I think a true healthy relationship is that it has to also be some receiving. Of that as well. So I get that.
Yeah, because think about it. If you're constantly giving, eventually your tank is empty. You have nothing else to give, and then you're deficient. And that certainly shows and manifests in so many different ways when your tank is empty. So
Yeah.
So is that how
Definitely.
you came up, you know, with the concept of burnout to bliss?
Right. How do
going
we
through
go?
your own challenges?
Absolutely. And there's a process that I take clients through. I call it reveal, release, receive, and rise. So I have a program with 4 different modules. And the reveal is, okay, let's interrogate our own narratives and our thoughts. It's just like I had to do, right? So we have something called a sabotage, like a self-sabotage assessment that you would take. And it's a super easy free quiz that you can take.
Okay.
And you find out what your saboteurs are.
Okay.
So I'm an avoider. You know what? I'm a former avoider
Right.
and fixer.
Right.
So for some of us that tend to lean towards people pleasing and fixing, so it's just a way that we self-sabotage, right? So like I said, when you change, everything changes around you. So sometimes you have this story in your idea that, or this idea in your head that, okay, I'm going to fix this situation. It's up to me. A situation with 2 people now, or between you and a child, 2 humans who are their own person, but I'm going to fix it.
And when you say it that way and say it out loud, it does make you chuckle. Because you're like, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense that I think I can do that. Who do we think we are?
Absolutely.
But what you're saying, Caroline, is such a transition. How were you able to get to shift your mind?
Right.
To start to manifest those changes in yourself.
Right.
So that others could see that as well.
And so this is a part of what I was saying about how much my experience with my life coach was different from my therapist. My life coach was able to provide me with actual tools like a saboteur assessment. So I could see what my saboteurs were. You get a description of what they are and you read about yourself like, that's why I do that. That's why when he tried to help me, I thought it was this. Or that's why I said, oh no, I can handle it. Or that's why I never asked for help.
Yeah.
Okay? And then you're like, okay, so now when that thought comes into my head, like literally in one of my sessions, I remember going into her office and she was like, would you like something to drink? And I said, oh, no, thank you. She's like, Caroline, would you take a moment and think about it? Like just as simple as, no, I'm good. Don't worry about me. I can get, yes. Yes. Not
Matter of
anymore.
fact, I would like a drink,
Okay,
please.
come on.
I'm over here parched to death. But don't worry, you over here about to
Come on.
thirst
Yeah.
all over.
You know you've been
Dehydrated.
running.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Didn't
And we
have
all have those automatic responses.
Yes.
Knowing your mouth is just thirsty and
Come on.
dry as don't know what. I've been there. Oh, hey, Will, you want some drink? No, I'm good. No, I need about 3 gallons of water right now.
So dehydrated. Lips just
My
chapped.
skin cracked.
So
I'm just
true.
like,
Chapped.
oh my God. But yeah, sometimes you need to pause and say, I thank you. I would appreciate that.
Right.
But that goes back to what you were saying, being able to receive care and thought.
And how about the fact that people are only going to ask so many times? And then they're going to be like, oh, well, she never needs anything.
Yeah, she's good.
So why? She's always good.
Yeah. So that first part is reveal. So let's start looking at what are those things that you do that self-sabotage, right? And then we all have what's called the judge. That is, we do this self-judgment thing. We always judge ourselves more harshly than others.
Okay.
So just paying attention to that voice and starting to recognize it.
Okay.
So that's what the reveal process takes you through. And then release is, okay, so now I've identified, oh, I struggle with being a fixer or a people pleaser, or I'm restless, or I'm there's one called a stickler. You know, you're super anal or detail oriented.
Okay.
Once again, these are things that have value, you know, when you have a healthy perspective on them, right?
Right.
So then we're going to reframe that mindset, right? So, okay, now I want to release the idea that this is something that I'm going to operate in. And when I get that thought, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to say, thank you. I would like to have this, you know?
Okay.
Or do you have some, I don't know, I don't want a water, maybe a tea? What you, you know?
Right.
Like,
Since you're
ask me what you-
offering.
come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you find out people would love to help you, especially if you a giving person. And oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. So that's reveal. Release is like, okay, you're going to release that mindset and replace it with a healthier perspective. And then receive is, okay, now you're ready to actually receive a new perspective, a new mindset, you know, a new direction. Now that you've identified, oh, okay, these are some of the thoughts and narratives that have held me back.
Right.
And I'm ready to let that go. And then just literally receiving, you know, having a different response.
Right.
I love that. It's almost like you're just taking control of your life. Really.
You are. And being more thoughtful about the thoughts that you have.
Paying attention to yourself, not everybody else. How about that?
Man, I love that. I love that.
The time frame to go through these cycles, especially between release and the point where you're able to receive, because you're having you're having to release old habits.
Yes.
And how long does it take to reformulate a new habit, especially in our lives? You know, we're, as Wendy Williams used to say, we're women of a particular age or, you know, and so I'm sure old habits die hard. And so what is that time frame? Is that time frame different for every individual, or do you try to ensure that you're moving through the phases within a certain time frame?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it takes time. And this is where you want to give yourself a lot of grace, right? This is where we start to confront that judge within us that tells us we should be at a certain point in a certain amount of time, you know? And I remember my coach telling me, Caroline, it took you 40 something years to get real comfortable in this. So don't
don't beat yourself up.
Hello? Come
beat
on.
yourself up.
So one step at a time, one day at a time. It's an ongoing process.
Now, how does the accountability, was your life coach also your accountability partner, where, you know, you had these homework assignments and then you would come back? How, you know, talk about the accountability, because I can see where you're well-intended and you're going to do this. And I got a new journal and I'm being intentional. And 30 days later, you're kind of back in those old habits again. Yeah.
So that's one of the great things to me about coaching is it's so specialized and specific for every person. So if you're a good coach, you're really good at identifying what are those triggers and those things that really encourage each person, right? So for some people, it's, okay, I'm gonna have to write myself a check for this amount. If I don't do this by this date, like I've been wanting this new job, I know that I have all the skills. I'm going to apply by this date, you know, and if I don't do it, this is and you get to choose what your milestone is, what your, you know, and and so, what are you going to do? And if we continue to keep coming up against this thing and we can't seem to get past it, okay, it's time for us to sit down and interrogate what's going on here. What's the story you're telling yourself? Wow. And once you get the tools and you start to think a little bit differently, it becomes a practice. Because it's always, honey, one thing we can guarantee is change.
Yes.
Okay.
All day.
Whether we want it or not.
Come on. Like I said, even the good things. Right.
That's true.
So Caroline, this piece that I was on your social media, and I I couldn't get off of it because I just kept,
it's great. You have a great page.
But one thing that stuck out to me, you said activate an alignment with your God-given assignment. Ooh, I think I know what you meant, but could you explain that for us?
Yeah. So like I said, I feel like I've been on this journey from burnout to bliss. And bliss is like, I mean, there's joy. Like, I'm a joyful person. Let me tell you, I have the joy of the Lord just life.
You do.
And that's just who I am. But bliss is like joy on top of joy. Okay? Right? And so what I have found is that when I finally started to reveal these negative thoughts or the things that were confusing me or the way that I would judge myself, and then I finally got to a better place, and as things changed around me and these great opportunities started to come my way, and I actually believe that I'm worthy of them and choosing to receive them, then I feel like I have been more open to spirit and truth and peace, right? And so, and one of the reasons why I was so excited about coming today was just, you know, like my home.
Yeah.
And your peace can be anywhere that you are. Right? Like my last home was a great place, a lifetime of memories, you know, but one of the things that sold me on my home, there's two things. There's the garden in the back and my closet in my master bedroom. Woo, that was God. Right. We walked in that, girl. Okay. But
well, that backyard was, because that's just so you as well. Goodness. I mean, there were so many things that connected you to that space. Yeah.
Y'all, it is my sanctuary.
That's awesome.
Let me tell you. And so when I tell you that, I think what I remember most when I really reflected on our process of selling my house and buying the one that I'm in now, it was me being willing to let go.
Was that hard? And was it scary? Were you afraid to say, you know what? Yep. I'm moving forward. I'm moving into this next phase where I need to release the past and move on to the new.
At that point, I wasn't.
Okay.
At that point, I was not scared. I was ready.
Okay.
But all the other things I had to let go to get there, that was scary.
Okay. So prior to.
So scary. Yes. Having to really like acknowledge that I'm about to go through a divorce.
Right. That is very scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still will never forget the day he actually left. Like when the moving truck came and took his stuff. Not the day he left, but when the moving truck came and pulled off. That just was
ooh, something in your stomach.
Let me tell you, I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I tell you, I mentioned that my backyard is like a sanctuary because this is what gets activated when we are willing to let go. You know what I'm saying? When we allow the transition to happen.
Yeah.
You know? And that's letting go of what no longer serves us, but then that's also being willing to receive.
That's true.
Right? If nobody can help you, if nobody can love on you, if nobody can serve you, what
are we doing?
Come on. That's a part of it too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. That's the good stuff.
Receive. I love that. Receive. And as you mentioned, when you open yourself up to receive and you're more mindful of that, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's when it falls into what you're calling your God-given assignment.
Yes.
Because if you're not willing to receive and acknowledge, you know, these things you're talking about, you can't really move how God wants you to move. So being open and being able to take accountability. Because I think throughout this, I hear accountability, like you're taking control. I can see how God can truly step in at that point.
Yeah.
And God, yeah.
Ooh, and what a weight lifted.
I'm telling you.
I mean, it's just such a burden off your shoulders when during that release phase.
Yeah.
When you realize I didn't really have to be doing all this. Why am I taking on so much ownership for making sure everybody else is happy? Like, wait, why? But if there's no peace, then, So tell me about you and your service that you offer as a life coach and how can someone who wants to take advantage of that get what they need?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a long time, I've been doing one-on-one coaching. And when you mentioned about the time that it takes to work through this process, I mean, I have clients that I have coached for a year longer. Okay. I coached for many years with my coach. If it was in my budget, I would still be coaching with her. I don't ever want to stop learning and growing in the way that she shifted my life. Yeah. So, but actually, I'm really looking to move more towards group coaching. Oh, and so I would love to get just a handful of women who are interested in walking through this process.
Do it. Yeah. I'll do it. I'll be involved in that. Yeah.
So I would love to take 3 to 5 women through a 4-week type of program. We meet once a week and do 1 session a week. Because once you have the tools, you can keep working that through.
Right.
And then there's always an opportunity to talk one-on-one or to supplement.
Gotcha.
But that's really the vision that I have now is working with an intimate group of ladies who feel like they're ready to just like kill it in whatever the next transition they have in their life. Good, bad, everything in between.
I think we could probably certainly get quite a few people who would like to be included in that group. I know me for one. So certainly if you decide to do that, put that on social media, put the tickets, however we purchase, we will do that. How do you feel making this transition to where you are today as a life coach and the things that you're offering? Well, how does that make you feel?
Before she says, listen, you see that smile on Caroline's face?
Right. I don't even really have to ask that question.
When you go to her social media, that smile just warms. Even if I'm feeling bad, all of a sudden Caroline pop up on my, and she's like, hello.
Yeah.
Love you. I was like, I love you too. I feel so much better right now. But it's obviously that you're in a place of bliss, of joy.
And it shows.
And if people didn't know, and I'm glad that you're sharing it with people through your coaching, that you just didn't wake up like that. It took a while to get your self-development, to get all that to now where you're able to share your gift with others. But how do you feel about what you do?
Yeah. I mean, this is it. Like, this is what I was created for. Right. This is that God-given assignment. Ooh. And I get to walk in alignment with him.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And then for me, the other big thing is what I get to model for my daughters. I have 3 girls. And that was one of the many taps on the shoulder that I had to confirm that it was time to make a transition out of my marriage. Is what am I modeling for them?
For your girls.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my ex-husband and I have a great relationship. We are in such a better place. We were just texting today and I was thinking, thank God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the fact that we can communicate well and even talk about things that we're like, I really don't think you should have handled that way, but like, cause we had a bit of a conflict we had to discuss today. And I'm just like, it went so smoothly.
That's great.
And so I'm grateful.
Well, that goes back to when you change, things around you and people around you change. Oh my
goodness.
So that allows you now to have those difficult conversations that you may not have been able to have previously because of the change in you.
So true. And I was a major conflict avoider. Oh my goodness.
Me too.
Oh But when I tell you now, I can say things directly, intentionally.
Direct is better.
Okay, it really is.
Let's just talk.
Oh my goodness. And y'all know we have a mutual friend. I'm not going to say her name, but she's been on the podcast. But she is one of the most direct people. We know who that is. Love her to death.
Love her.
Yeah.
You don't ever have to wonder what she's thinking. That, honey, all love.
All
What?
love.
I'm always like, oh, I can learn so much from you. And she's always like, oh, I can learn so much from you. I really need to tone it down. I'm like, no, girl, you are everything you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
Now, Caroline, a quick question. I know we were talking about, having a circle of ladies, but I feel like this, even though it's Mama Champion, Life Coach for Mamas, this can translate to any group, men,
Definitely,
as well. I think the things that I hear can certainly, translate to any gender, to be able to take advantage of some of these positive influences.
Yeah, I totally agree. Through this process, I've learned what some of my core values are. And one of my core values is self-awareness. And so I love to meet a guy who is self-aware. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like when I ask you about, what happened with your relationship or even what you're dealing with right now. It don't even have to be about a past relationship. And you can be like, you know what? I really could
have
stand
improved
to
some things.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So and I think
just ownership.
Yes. Come on.
Yeah.
So what else you got going on, Caroline? What is next for you? Because you're doing a lot.
Now, how long have you been
awesome work
in this space of being a life coach?
Yeah, so I started life coaching when the pandemic started.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a little extra time since we were working from home.
Right.
And I was able to get certified.
Awesome.
And
congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
That's awesome.
So so what is that? 2018, 2019? So it's been a couple of years now. And then what's next? So, I am, like I said, not playing. I'm in a season of receiving. I really am intentional about how I spend my time.
Right.
One thing I've learned through this process is, not only is our life sacred, but a part of that is our time. Right. And for me as a giver, I'm naturally a people person, extrovert. I've learned that I have to be intentional about how I spend my time and who I spend it with. Absolutely. So, I'm good. Enjoying my sanctuary and my peace, honey. Yeah. Okay.
Enjoying those girls who are so beautiful. I love seeing them on social media. They are everything.
Yeah. My buddies. My buddies.
But living this good life, receiving.
Yeah. So Caroline, if there was, if there's something you can leave with our audience, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for me, it would be rest. There is so much going on and swirling around us. Like, y'all, take a break and, truly rest. A pause with social media, a pause with friends, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's a pause with friends. Maybe it's opening yourself up to something. But what is that rest and peace for you? Find that, do that.
Right.
Prioritize that.
Yes. I love that. Man, what a way to wrap up this session.
Oh, you know what? I would like to, transition out of our conversation by saying thank you. Because for so many of your motivational messages, but in particular, earlier this week, it was amazing how you just don't know.
Listen. It was so amazing. I'm going to read it.
The text message you sent us, number one, was so on time. And number two was so needed. And you just don't know how that blessed us, both Will and I. And, we went off the group chat, and I was just telling him how God has blessed us to have such a circle. And we're so appreciative that you're a part of that circle. And for the things that you bring are such a major blessing. So thank you so much.
I'm going to read it. It was that powerful. And it says, end each day trusting God to handle the things you don't speak about. When you're hanging on by a thread, make sure it's the hem of his garment. There are hidden blessings in every struggle. Sometimes we're so focused on the future that we don't realize we're living in the middle of what we once prayed for. Life is full of ups and downs. Don't stress. It's part of the journey.
Man.
Think of it like a heart monitor. As long as you're alive, there will be highs and lows. Only when it flatlines is the struggle over. Now let that sink in. You'd be surprised who's watching your journey and being inspired by it.
Yeah.
So don't quit. Yeah, that kept us going. And Key and I was sort of talking through some things, and I was like, look at God.
Yeah.
Right on time.
Having a tough week, and we're struggling, and just feeling depleted, and you never know how the things that you say, things that you share will affect someone's life. So appreciate you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Caroline Colleen.
We love you,
Listen,
Caroline.
Listen, you can find her everywhere on social media.
Yeah.
Yes.
But your handles are
Yes, on Instagram, Caroline.Colleen, and that can take you to everything else.
she links you to everywhere.
Yes.
And listen,
Very savvy with her
she is the mama
social media.
champion. She is a life coach for mamas.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful she's our friend.
And I'm thankful you went from burnout to bliss.
Come
and
on.
you can help so many people do that.
Yes.
I think that any phase of your life, you can, certainly benefit from this concept. So, all right, you guys, it's a wrap. Thank you for joining. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this, because a lot of people need it. So make sure you share this podcast. We thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great day.
We love y'all. Peace.